Hi guys, welcome to another video. Today I'll be doing Steven Seagal's top 10 best movies. In the late 80s and throughout the 90s, he was definitely one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, but hasn't made many great movies since the early 2000s, so let's get to the list. Sit back, relax, and let the show begin. Number 10 is Exo Wounds. Released in 2001 and directed by Andrzej Bartkowiak, this isn't a great film, but it's the only Seagal film I got to see in the theater, and at the time I really enjoyed it. It didn't age well though, and there's lots of scenes that are just ridiculous. And the look of the film feels a bit outdated. The fight scenes aren't great, and they got Seagal doing some kind of weird sidekick on strings. It just looks strange. And out of all the guys Seagal has fought in the movies, it appears he's met his match when he goes up against DMX a few times before they team up. It's just a bit funny. But still, it's one of his last watchable films. The cast, for the most part, are good, and Tom Arnold is hilarious. Overall, Exit Wounds is a mediocre film at best, and in my opinion, it's his 10th best film, but there's a huge drop-off from number 9. Number 9 is Fire Down Below. Released in 1997 and directed by Felix Enrique Alcala. This bombed at the box office, but I never minded it. It's got a great cast of Mary Helgenberger, Chris Christopherson, Stephen Lang, and Harry Dean Stanton playing alongside Steven Seagal. Seagal plays an environmental protection agent sent to a small isolated town to investigate the mismanagement of toxic waste and the people behind it. It's got some great fight scenes and a decent country soundtrack. Overall, this film is solid, but some scenes feel a bit outdated and generic. Still a good watch, though. Number 8 is The Glimmer Man. Released in 1996 and directed by John Gray, 96 was the turning point in Seagal's career. Executive Decision came out the same year and was a pretty big hit, and Seagal surprisingly was killed off early on in that film, leaving John Leguizamo with Kurt Russell throughout the film instead of Seagal. I never really liked Executive Decision, but if Seagal was in it, the whole picture probably would have been great. Seagal also roughed up John Leguizamo on set, so that leads us to The Glimmer Man, which bombed at the box office. But I love the look of the film and the Los Angeles filming locations, and the fight scenes are excellent. I love when Seagal takes out everyone at a restaurant, and while he's walking out, the phone rings. He answers and he tells the people he can't take the reservations because the restaurant is closed for 2 months. The final fight is so entertaining as well. Seagal has some great one-liners. I'm not a fan of Keenan Ivory Wayans though. He irritates me at some points, but The Glimmer Man overall is a solid film. Number 7 is On Deadly Ground. Released in 1994 and directed by Steven Seagal himself, this was Seagal's first misstep. Up until that point, his films were always making money. Then On Deadly Ground released and it was panned by the critics and bombed at the box office. Despite all that though, I enjoy it. It's got a great cast of Michael Caine. He's terrific as the villain. I love his commercial scene where he's talking about the caribou coming down from the glacier mountains to feed on the tundra grasses. We even got Arlie Ermy and Billy Bob Thornton playing mercenaries near the end of the film. The fight scenes aren't great, but there's a fun one in a bar where he roughs up the gas man from Dumb and Dumber, and he asks him, "What does it take to change the essence of a man?" And he replies, "Time. I need time." The dialogue is hilarious, the action scenes are mediocre, but I really do enjoy the deeper message about big businesses doing whatever they please just because they got more money and power. And unfortunately, it's an issue that will never be addressed in real life. Number 6 is Under Siege 2, Dark Territory. Released in 1995 and directed by Jeff Murphy, after On Deadly Ground failed, Seagal signed on to make a sequel to his most successful film of his career, Under Siege. The second installment is fun and has a great cast, especially the main villains of the film, played by Eric Bogosian and Everett McGill. They're awesome in their roles. I enjoy the train setting and the fight sequences are fun, but I was a bit disappointed with the final knife fight against Everett McGill. Seagal manhandles him. It's kind of funny. Overall, it's a good film, but the last 5 minutes are a real head scratcher. There's some terrible CGI and editing near the end of the film that's just laughable. But still, it's one of his last decent films of his career. Number 5 is Hard to Kill. Released in 1990 and directed by Bruce Malmuth, this was Seagal's second film. It's solid, although Seagal didn't like the director at all. It's got a solid cast with William Sadler and Kelly LeBrock, Seagal's wife at the time. There's some cheesy moments like how he wakes up from a coma after 7 years and he's able to walk, run, kick ass, and make love the very next day, it seems. But whatever, the action and fight scenes are awesome. I love when he takes out the punks at the liquor store, and then the following scene where Seagal and his wife are gunned down in their home. It's a very effective scene. I love when Seagal takes a shot to the chest, then goes into beast mode, screams, "You motherfucker!" Then breaks the guy's wrist, screws him up a bit, before getting shot for a second time. Hard to Kill is a very enjoyable action flick. Number 4 is Marked for Death. Released in 1990 and directed by Dwight H. Little, who directed Halloween 4, and that's why Danielle Harris was cast to play Seagal's niece. Also, Dwight H. Little is a huge fan of John Carpenter, and that's probably why he casted Keith David as Seagal's sidekick, and Peter Jason for a minor role as Seagal's superior. Marked for Death is just so much fun. The main Jamaican drug lord Screwface, played by Basil Wallace, is excellent. The action and fight scenes are very well done. There's a great scene where Seagal is messing everyone up at a jewelry store, takes out like 8 guys by himself, and the last drug dealer is standing there half dead from Seagal's Aikido skills. And out of nowhere, Keith David decides to help out by running up to the guy and smashing his face in with the butt end of his shotgun. Seagal and Keith David are just so much fun together. This movie is a blast. Number 3 is Under Siege. Released in 1992 and directed by Andrew Davis, this was Seagal's biggest box office hit. And Andrew Davis would follow up with another huge hit with The Fugitive in 93, where he would reuse Tommy Lee Jones in a starring role and a few others in minor roles. But back to Under Siege, it's a great big budget 90s action flick. It has all the elements, great setting, fantastic all around cast, great action and fight scenes. The only things that bother me are the scenes with the control center. They're so useless and boring. There's also a scene where Seagal is down and out and he's about to be shot by Combe Meany, only to be miraculously saved by Miss July 89. Also, the ending, Seagal walks right into Tommy Lee Jones, lets him hold him at gunpoint. But of course, Tommy ditches the gun and opts for a knife fight. At least it's more of a fight than the finale of part 2. It's a very good film though, Under Siege. I enjoy it still today. Number 2 is Above the Law. Released in 1988 and directed by Andrew Davis, director of Under Siege. This was Seagal's first film and it's an excellent debut. Seagal's aggressive Aikido style, along with his 6'5", 220 build, was a real shock to see on screen. I love the opening dojo credit sequence. The acting isn't the best, but there are a lot of notable actors like Pam Grier and a young Sharon Stone. The story is a bit ridiculous, although I appreciate the deeper message the film tried to convey. The villain of the film, played by Henry Silva, is excellent. There's one scene where he ties a priest to a chair, injects him with opium, and starts getting crazy, telling the priest, "Now you'll heal with me!" with a big vein popping out of his head. It's great times. Above the Law is excellent. Number 1 is Out for Justice. Released in 1991 and directed by John Flynn, this film is so good it never gets old. Seagal's partner is shot and killed by a lunatic. William Forsythe is brilliant playing the villain. Seagal goes after Forsythe and we find out that they grew up together and chose different paths. Although Seagal being a cop, he has a lot of mafioso friends and even grabs a made man by the collar because they're really tight and he starts to tell him some story about some birds. Some of the dialogue is just too hilarious, but overall this film is awesome. There's so many great fight scenes, my favorite being the bar scene where he's messing everyone up. Asking, "Anybody see Richie? Anybody know why Richie did Bobby Lupo?" I love this film. I also love the finale where Seagal just destroys everyone. This film is fantastic and the soundtrack is top notch. Anyway, so that's the list, guys. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.